10 signs that your mental health getting worse. If you're like many people, you have a sticky relationship to mental illness, a stigma that isn't helped by the media. But the truth is, mental health issues are more common than you might think. Nearly 1 in 5 Americans live with mental illness. In fact, over one's entire lifetime, the average American has a 47.4% chance of having any kind of mental health disorder. 1. You're having difficulty coping with life. This might seem like a minor complaint. Doesn't everyone have trouble coping with life? And yes, most people struggle with life at some point or another. It's an issue when you notice that you haven't been able to function as well as you once did, or you cannot function in a way appropriate to your circumstances. For example, if your trouble functioning is disproportionate to the problem at hand, then it might be cause for concern. Another sign that it might be a mental health concern and not the typical struggles of life, as if there doesn't appear to be any reasonable explanation for your diminished coping skills. Like a medical condition, the unexpected loss of a loved one, loss of a job, or other significant life events. 2. Excessive anxiety. Excessive anxiety. You run into traffic, you're late for a meeting. You forget to answer an email. You bungle a date. You say something embarrassing. Anxiety and stress happen all the time. And anxiety does have a real evolutionary purpose. It lends urgency to your deadline and keeps you on your toes if you're about to be eaten by a lion. Even the stress that comes with new responsibilities from a job promotion is good stress. For example, if you find that you can't sleep because you can't stop replaying something you did wrong earlier in the day, or if you deliberately avoid certain places or situations because of the anxiety they cause. 3. You're depressed, unhappy, or apathetic. You're depressed, unhappy, or apathetic. Everyone gets down from time to time. Sometimes, life deals you a bad hand. When you think of a depressed person, you probably think of Eeyore, someone who's tired all the time and always sad. In reality, one of the most commonly reported signs of depression isn't sadness at all, it's apathy. Apathy is a feeling of overwhelming indifference to yourself, your life, and those around you, even towards people and things that previously excited you. It's a lack of motivation to get out of bed in the morning and an inability to figure out why you cared about something. This is a common feature of depression and manifests in a wide variety of ways, from the stereotypical low energy and hopelessness to difficulty concentrating and sleeping issues. It can show up as poor hygiene habits and peculiar eating because you just can't bring yourself to care. And the truth is, depression isn't sadness. Someone who's sad can drag themselves out of it or remove themselves from the situation. Someone who's depressed can't drag themselves out of it, no matter how much they might want to. 4. Excessive or inexplicable anger or irritability. Excessive or inexplicable anger. One of the less talked about signs of mental illness, especially depression, is a less than sympathetic symptom, irritability. Anger and irritability have long languished in the dark, dusty corners of psychiatry. Doctors today are starting to recognize them as hallmarks of chronic depression. It's true that everyone gets angry or irritable from time to time. Some days just don't go your way. Your coworkers are being unnecessarily difficult. Your kids aren't listening to a word you say. You hit every red light and spill your coffee. 5. Stuck in a traumatic event. Stuck in a traumatic event. Trauma is the emotional equivalent of an atom bomb. It's destructive, wide-reaching, and shakes you to your core. Some people bounce back from trauma without the need for additional help. But some people need more support than loved ones alone can provide. Are you stuck reliving traumatic events? Are traumatic images branded in your brain and won't turn off? Do certain experiences, situations, places, or objects throw you back to a traumatic experience? Are you feeling like you trapped in a horrible moment without a means to escape? 6. Weight or appetite changes. Weight or appetite changes. Our weight changes every day and fluctuates throughout our lives. Even our appetites change depending on the day and situation. Even traumatic or stressful events can cause our appetite and eating patterns to shift. Eventually, though, we settle back into our normal routine. But when these appetite or weight changes come without warning or explanation, then there's cause for concern. Are you finding that you can't finish a lunch that you used to devour readily? Are you finding yourself more hungry than usual? Are you finding yourself eating at unusual times or seeking out different foods than normal? If you find that you can't motivate yourself to prepare food and catch yourself grazing on a random collection of foods that are easy to grab, it could be a sign of depression. If everything tastes bland, it could also be a sign of depression. 7. An unusual or unhealthy relationship to food. Unhealthy relationship with food. This brings us to our next red flag: an unusual or unhealthy relationship with food. The stereotype of eating disorders usually goes like this: high-achieving, perfectionist, thin teenage girls who don't eat to stay skinny. The truth is that eating disorders are more complex than that, and you can have disordered eating patterns without a full-blown eating disorder. In fact, disordered eating is a cultural epidemic. You're just so used to it that you don't notice it. Constant dieting, being good when you order a salad for lunch and bad when you get a cookie, and needing to go to the gym to work off a big meal. A distorted body image is one of the typical early signs of an eating disorder. This is often described as perceiving yourself as fat even if you aren't, but it also involves hyperawareness of your own appearance and believing that others are paying more attention to your appearance than they actually are. Another sign of disordered eating is a rigid set of rules around food that impact your ability to eat with or around others. For example, you're not allowed to eat outside of certain specific times, or you're not allowed to eat certain foods, or you have strict rules about how much food you're allowed to take in. 8. Significant changes to your sleep patterns. Significant changes. Another sign of mental health concerns that you may not have considered as disrupted sleep patterns. Generally, humans need 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night to function properly. Persistent and inexplicable changes to your sleeping habits or patterns can be a sign of mental health issues. The link between anxiety and sleeping problems is one you're probably already familiar with. Difficulty falling asleep due to repeated anxious thoughts, difficulty staying asleep, stress dreams, etc. The link between depression and sleeping disorders isn't as well known. Which is surprising, since sleep disturbances are one of the key diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder. Medical professionals have found strong connections between the 2/3 of depressed patients. 9. You're using substance abuse to cope. Substance abuse to cope when everything else in your head seems to be going haywire or you can't seem to get a handle on your life. You might notice a few concerning patterns. Your evening happy hour cocktail becomes 3. You start smoking again, or you smoke more than before. You find yourself reaching for the medicine cabinet to quiet your brain down, or seeking something stronger than what's in your medicine cabinet. There's a strong and concerning link between substance abuse and mental health disorders, especially when individuals feel that they can't talk about mental health issues or when they don't have ready access to treatment. 10. You are contemplating suicide. Contemplating suicide. Finally, there's the taboo of all mental health taboos: suicide. Suicidal thoughts and actions are primarily associated with mood disorders like depression and bipolar disorder, though they can result from other circumstances, like the sudden loss of a job or a particularly difficult divorce. Suicidal ideation comes in many shades but can generally be classed in one of two categories: passive and active. Active suicidal ideation is the type you've probably heard about the most. This is when someone has an existing, pressing wish to die and has taken concrete steps toward this, such as forming a plan, giving away possessions, or saying goodbye to loved ones. Like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel.